Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Andrew Carothers, CCXP. He is a senior customer experience leader, helping companies build and scale organizations that increase customer adoption and retention, improve renewal rates, and drive growth. A founding member of Cisco Systems' CX function, Carothers has built extensive strategic and tactical CX knowledge, including digital CX, partner programs, voice of the customer, customer-centric culture, and journey mapping. Lots of exciting things. A 12-time International Customer Experience Award winner, he frequently writes and speaks on CX topics, and he's co-authored the Publicity Handbook, a Fortune Book Club selection. He currently serves as a member of the Board of Advisors for the University of San Francisco's School of Management Strategic Artificial Intelligence program. So without further delay, sit back and let's jump right into this conversation with Andrew. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. So could you share with our listeners a little bit about your journey, how it is that you got from where you were to where you are today?
I'd be happy to. I started my career in the field of public relations specifically, which is how I ended up writing the Publicity Handbook that you mentioned before. And I worked at an agency. I worked in-house. I started working at Autodesk, technology company in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I live. And that was my first foray into the technology world. And worked for the Electric Vehicle Association of America before anybody had heard of electric vehicles. This was years ago. And then started to expand outside of just public relations into more corporate communications, investor relations, marketing communications, demand generation, so other marketing and communications fields. I worked for a few small companies. I had my own small boutique marketing agency. And then I joined Cisco Systems. Starting off in the marketing field, we didn't have a customer experience function at that time. At Cisco, we sold hardware. We sold hardware that powered the internet. They were big boxes. Our customers were typically in the IT department. They had large teams that were all trained in Cisco. We would sell them the gear and come back maybe 8 or 10 years later and say, time to buy the next one. And they didn't have a whole lot of choice, to be honest with you, because their whole teams were trained to use Cisco specifically. So at a point, we decided that we wanted as a company to move into change our business model to have more of a recurring revenue mix. That required that really changed things. And then that changed my career trajectory. Mm-hmm. So in a recurring revenue world, and then sort of the whole rise of the software as a service or SaaS industry was part of this switch. Customers are not locked in for 8 to 10 years with a particular with a particular product. Mm-hmm. They can switch. Contracts are maybe a year long, maybe they're 6 months long, maybe 1 month long. And so they have the opportunity to switch to a competitor much more quickly. And that then changes the responsibility from the customer to get value out of what they purchased to the company to make sure their customers are getting value out of what they purchased. Because now the customer's in control. So we started to build a customer experience function at Cisco. This is about 13 years ago. And that's when I switched from marketing to customer experience. Mm-hmm. And I think customer experience, sort of the two parents typically for customer experience professionals, are either marketing or customer support. And I came from the marketing side. So that's why I got into it. And there were 100 of us at Cisco. The employee population at Cisco was probably around 60,000 at the time. And only 100 of us were starting the CX function. And half of those people had come from, we started the function on a Monday, and half of those 100 people were renewal contract sellers in the sales organization on the previous Friday. And then on Monday, they were doing the same thing. So there were really 50 of us that were creating a whole new function, a whole new way of doing business, a whole new way of interacting with our customers. And that's what I started up with initially, and it's continued to be both building the function with a particular emphasis on making digital connections with customers. So that's how I got to where I am today.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, customer experience, as you mentioned before, it's evolved. You've been in the space for a very long time now. Um, what are some overarching areas that you find have changed? I mean, we're human beings, and I don't think we've changed that much over time. There have been definitely different things that have been introduced to us to stimulate us more. And of course, accessibility and convenience, and people just want to have things with less friction and just more ease. But if you could maybe just tap into maybe the data or even your own experiences as to why you believe, or what are some of the things that you believe customers are more paying attention to now.
Well, you touched on one, so I won't dive too deeply into it, but customers want and now expect a simple, consistent experience from the companies that they're working with. And I think that's for two reasons. I think that expectation has been shaped by two things, really. One is the rise of companies like Amazon and even Apple on more of a hardware and then a software perspective, where those companies have made the experience so easy. It's so easy to go to Amazon.com, find what you want, purchase it, right? Everything about the search capability, the ratings capability that a buyer can look at, the actual purchasing process, and then the return process, if need be, is simple and fast and painless. And even then, the renewal, I'll call it, if you want to rebuy something that you've already bought, maybe it's groceries or whatever it might be, it's so simple to find the record of that previous purchase and just hit buy again. And similarly, Apple has made their products by and large so easy to use, so easy to purchase. I mean, they're expensive, but they're so easy to use, and so easy to walk into an Apple store or online, get training on how to use it. So those are both examples from the business to consumer world. The second thing that's happened is that customers have learned to expect the same experience in their engagements with businesses in a B2B environment that they receive in a B2C environment. So that's a big shift too. It's sort of like, well, if Amazon can do it, why can't you do it? So, which means that a company's competitors are not just their traditional competitors in whatever they sell. It's also, from an experience perspective, it's also every company. It's Amazon. It's, as I mentioned, Apple. It's everybody, because customers have now come to expect so much from their daily lives, their consumer world, that they expect that now everywhere. So those are two. That's a significant shift in, as you described it. The other thing that I think is really significant, and that's risen, it started before COVID, but was accelerated by COVID, is customers now want a digital first experience. And I mean all customers. So it used to be that companies thought of digital as a way to scale, to those customers that they couldn't reach with their customer success teams that they had, or their customer success managers, whatever it might be, right? So their most important customers got white glove concierge treatment. And the next level of customers got, well, I've got, one customer success manager working with 10 or 100 customers, whatever it might be. And everybody that I don't really have the time for, they just get digital, and not necessarily even a great digital experience, but at least they get something. Now, I think, partly because of the first trend that we talked about, I think every customer wants a digital first experience. And it's not just me. Industry analysts say this. I was talking last week with the director of digital customer experience for Salesforce. He sees the same thing. Our customers are telling this. Everybody, from the most loyal, from the highest value, from the largest customers to the smallest customers, want a digital first experience. And that's partly because they know that companies have so much data about those customers already that they expect something in return for that data. Yeah. And it's also partly because they want a faster, easier experience. And it's a lot easier now to go to united.com to check airline flights and maybe purchase an airline ticket than it is to pick up the phone and call United. Not
Oh,
picking up,
yes.
but in most
So
companies,
true.
it's just simpler. I took a flight yesterday and tried to get on a standby list, ended up not getting on the standby list. All of these activities, none of it was done talking on the phone to an airline representative. It was all done digitally, and it was all done actually. It was all done poolside off of my phone. So it's so simple now my wife is a wealth manager, and she can initiate if she doesn't do it for clients, but for us, she sold a little bit of stock. She did it from her phone while we were sitting in the airplane, waiting for the flight to take off.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to live in a digital world and to get things done anytime, anywhere. So you don't have to be sitting at your desk. As I said, I was sitting by the pool. My wife was sitting in an airplane waiting to take off. It's so easy to engage digitally that customers want to engage digitally first. Now, if they don't get what they need, I'm not saying it's a digital only experience. They want to be able to talk to a human if they need to find something that they can't find on their own or have a problem solved, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's a huge shift, is the rise of customers wanting a digital first experience.
All right. You know, when you spoke just now, you sparked my interest a little bit when you said they will try to seek something on their own. Has it been your experience that the no type of customer, right? And this spans all generations, not even just, if we were to just focus on one type of generation, but all. Would you say that they actively look to find a solution on their own before they reach out to the organization?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have data that shows up to 80% of customers try to seek information on their own, self-service, before they reach out to talk to a company. And I'll point out, that's not just post-purchase, that's also pre-purchase, where customers are trying to figure out not just will a product or a service provide the capabilities that I'm looking for, which is the first buying criteria listed by customers. The second one is what's the quality of this? So, first is functionality. The second one is, but is it actually going to work? And then the third one is not price anymore. It used to be, but now it's what's my experience going to be like if I buy this product? Am I going to get what is promised? And how difficult or easy is it going to be for me to get that? Because if it works great and the quality of the product is good, but it's so awful to work with that company, I'd rather pay more. So we see that, and then what we're seeing is customers therefore looking at customer communities. They're looking at whether it be the company's community or on Reddit or another social media platform. They're doing that kind of research now to find out what are people saying about the company and the products that they've purchased. And then when they have purchased, they're going to the same communities to get questions to their answers, or they're going to the company's website to get questions to their answers. Or they're going to maybe customer support, but they're engaging digitally first through a chat bot or through a knowledge base to try to find that answer. It could be because they're, feeding their child at lunch, or they're watching a soccer game, or it's 2 a.m. and they can't sleep, whatever it is. We find that the data shows, and we find all ourselves, that about 80% of customers go digitally first before trying to reach out to a company.
That is brilliant. And so it kind of supports my next question. Do you think organizations should invest in a knowledge base that's not just content that it requires them to read, but maybe even has visual, like maybe an MP4 file where you can watch a video on how to, especially if it's something in relation to a physical product, or them having to navigate in terms of setting something up that they've purchased? Do you find that that type of investment and having that depository where customers can access it, not just for your internal team members to assist customers in troubleshooting, but also helping the customers that they can help themselves, is a good avenue for organizations to definitely take on?
It's a great question, and I think you are absolutely correct, 100%. Because every customer wants to feel heard, and they want to feel understand, right? So you see me, you know me, And therefore you can provide me for the solution that I'm looking for. Now that solution could be I just want a new toothbrush, or it could be much more complex than that. And if customers want to learn, how do I set this up? How do I use it? How do I turn it on? Or how do I get more value out of what I've purchased? What are some really good tips or tricks? Or I'm having trouble. How do I solve this? Different customers learn different ways. So some customers want a deep, thick user's manual. Other people just give me a high level information. That's all I need. Other people want more of a text-based learning. Some want videos. Some want infographics.
True.
Kind of one of the nice things about some want long videos, some want short videos. I think one of the things that addresses what you're talking about for customers or for companies that want to provide that, who might think, I don't have the resources to be able to create a variety of content. And we haven't even talked about translating it to different languages. But that's very important for customers to be able to provide a customer information in their native language is not only likely, depending on their language skill in whatever language you might, let's say you might provide it in English, in addition to French or whatever the language is. I think it tells customers, I see you, I respect you, I'm going to provide this for you in your native language. So I think even language is important to your point. That's where I think companies can benefit from the rise of generative artificial intelligence, because there are a number of software programs out there, not all of them expensive, some of them even free, that companies can use to take their existing content and turn that into a variety of different versions of that same content. Take a 1 hour video that maybe was created by a subject matter expert within the company, and turn that into a series of small videos, turn it into an FAQ, turn that into an infographic, translate that text into different languages, and then use it as subtitles for that video. So now you've got the video available in multiple languages, at least, with closed captioning. Right. So I think it's very important. And I think it's easier than ever to do it, which then also means customers expect you to be able to do it for them.
Amazing, amazing. All right, so you're currently at Cisco, right, Andrew? As I remember reading in your bio.
Yes.
Could you tell us, as we're wrapping up, we're in the last quarter or about to start the last quarter of 2024. If you were to choose one word that's going to drive the behaviors and competencies of your team as it relates to CX for 2025, what would that be?
Oh, good question. Good question. I would say it is, if it's one word, I'll say data. It may be even more broadly digital, but to go down a little bit more deeply than just digital, data, and being knowledgeable about data. So everything from being either highly knowledgeable, like a data scientist or a data analyst, where we're using predictive AI to better understand our customers and what they're talking about, what their needs are, so that we can then improve the experiences we're providing our customers. To collecting data. Cisco's a large organization, a lot of silos within the company, a lot of different data sources coming in from different teams doing customer surveys, buying data, renewal data, data about how well customers are or are not adopting what they've bought, where they get stuck. So trying to collect all of that data so that we have a holistic view of our customers is a difficult task at a company as large as Cisco. Yeah. I would say it's important even for smaller companies to take on this task as well, because there are all these different pockets of data, but if it's on different people's laptops, it doesn't help the company provide the experience that a customer is looking for. So data will be an area of emphasis for us in 2025.
All right, sounds perfect. Now, could you also share with our listeners, what's the one online resource, tool, website, or application that you absolutely cannot live without in your business?
That is a really hard question to answer with just one. So I'm going to say ChatGPT or some other large language model, whether it's Minstrel or Claude or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that because if I was if I were stranded on a desert island and had internet access and needed just one tool, the ability to have that a large language model provides me with the ability to learn about everything, to be able to communicate, as we were talking about, in different formats, and to be able to just analyze a company's data, analyze a PDF, or summarize an Excel spreadsheet for me. The amazing variety of things that a large language model can do to help me with my everyday tasks, as well as big picture strategic direction.
Right.
I would choose that over any other tool.
Okay, so ChatGPT, perfect.
Yeah, ChatGPT. Not an answer that I would have given 2 years ago, but I think things have advanced to the point today where that's my answer.
Yeah. Okay. If you could share with our listeners maybe one or two books that you've read, it could be a book that you read recently or even one that you read a very long time ago, but it has had a great impact on you, whether personally or professionally.
All right, I'll share 2 books, one professional, one personal. The professional book is called Digital Hesitation. It came out I think about 4 or 5 years ago, by Thomas Law, who is with the Technology Services Industry Association. And that book lays out in a very easy to read way. It lays out the imperative for digital customer experience. It lays out what customers are looking for, why, a lot of the themes that you and I have talked about today, and then how to address it, where to get started. So Digital Hesitation by Thomas Law is number one. I'll go back to when I was probably about 13 years old for a personal book, and it has stuck with me all the way through my life. And I've read it probably 5 times now. And it had a profound influence on me. And that was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Because it's a gripping story for a little kid, little scary, but a gripping story. But then as I got older and as I reread it and I started to learn and be taught about the different themes of the book, beyond just the plot lines, but the themes of different cultures clashing and the othering, and sort of my empathy grew for the so-called monster, and the fear of the villagers. I started to understand more. There's so many societal themes in Frankenstein that resonate today, just as they did back in, I think, the 1800s when it was first written. So Frankenstein is absolutely one of my favorite books.
All right, sounds good.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
I did not expect that. But that's good. I like to hear different types of genres. I do believe that the different genres that we read can be non-professional, and a lot of times they spark creativity. And even though they might not necessarily be readily applicable to what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, there are things in there that will cause us to think outside of the box, and those things can actually bring greater ideas and creativity to the day-to-day activities.
Well said.
All right. Now, could you share with our listeners, Andrew, what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
You mentioned that I am on the board of advisors for the University of San Francisco School of Management Strategic Artificial Intelligence program. So that's an area that I'm really excited about. But AI overall, and particularly working with the University of San Francisco team, because of the obvious role of artificial intelligence, and there's so many ways that it can benefit individuals and companies, and the risks involved. I think it's important that we all be very mindful of artificial intelligence and the benefits and the risks, and how to and the need to try to address the bias that can be inherent in it, and how to try to prevent ourselves from making the same mistake that we've made for years in other technologies over and over and over again. It's an uphill battle because there's obviously a gold rush going on, and everybody wants to either be the first to use it or the second to make money out of it, or whatever it might be. And so issues of sort of social conscience tend to sort of get pushed to the wayside. But I think it's important that we continue to push there. So that's the one area that to me is the most significant and has the potential to have the greatest societal impact, not just business, but societal. So that to me is the most exciting and important thing that I'm working on these days.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, our listeners would have tapped into this episode, Andrew, and they're quite intrigued with your journey, all of the great things that we've discussed from we started, and they would like to find you online. Where's the best place they can find you online?
Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. You can just search for me there and find me. So look for the Andrew Carothers CCXP, because if not, you might get my son, and he's not the lovely person to talk to, but not about these ideas. So Andrew Carothers on LinkedIn, and I'd love for people to reach out to me. I enjoy meeting people from different companies, different walks of life, different cultures, different parts of the world. So please do find me and connect on LinkedIn.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, we always like to give our guests an opportunity to share with us. Do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? If for any reason you get derailed or you get off track, the quote kind of helps to get you back on track. Do you have one of those?
Well, there's one quote. It's almost a little bit of a cliche to mention it because it's a common quote, but often attributed to Shakespeare, "To thine own self be true." And so to me, that means if I'm walking a difficult portion of my path, to stop and remind myself of who I am, what's important to me, and my people, my family, my loved ones, my friends. That's important to me. So it's also a reminder for me to not try to walk the path alone, but to make sure that I'm connecting. It's easy sometimes for people to kind of pull inward. I want to make sure that I'm reminding myself to push outward and connect with people. And I'm a bit of an extrovert, but I want to make sure that I'm reaching out to people. And I want to make sure that I'm focusing in on and trusting myself to find the steps forward. So that quote, "To thine own self be true," reminds me to do both of those things.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on our podcast today and sharing with us all these great nuggets as it relates to customer experience, artificial intelligence, what customers are expecting, the shift that customers have made, the fact that customers are no longer comparing us with organizations that are similar to ours, but they're comparing us to companies that aren't even in the same industry as ours. And so we really have to raise the bar and look for opportunities to exceed their expectations. I think it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed chatting with you today.
I really enjoyed it too. I'm so glad that you had me on. I hope your audience found it useful, and I hope they connect with me and just really enjoy to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Just want to remind our listeners that you can follow us on X at Navigating CX, and feel free to join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.